Hey guys, welcome back to Open Eyes. Today we have Mohona. Mohona, why don't you give a little introduction about yourself?
Um, my name is Mohona. I'm in Pathway School, Noida. I'm in grade 12 of the IB, and I do not know what I'm doing.
Does anybody? Today we are going to talk about grievance studies. Grievance studies essentially is a bunch of hoax papers by three professors. Was it Peter Boghossian, James Linsday, and another
Pluckrose.
and
Yeah.
Pluckrose,
Helen
Helen
Pluckrose.
Pluckrose.
Yes.
Right. So essentially, over a period of 10 months, they wrote about 20 papers, and 7 of them not only got accepted but published. The problem with the grievance studies is the fact that the papers are just borderline ridiculous and sometimes just completely ridiculous. So, one of the papers was highlighting the fact, it was called the dog park paper, and it was highlighting the fact that because they basically made up a lot of data which said that what they were arguing was that owners of dogs were more likely to break up to male dogs humping rather than a female and male dog humping, and that signifies rape culture and the heteronormative ways of society.
Yes. Yes.
Dog humping in a park, right? And the entire point of these studies was to expose some kind of political bias in the social sciences, which allows any paper to be published as long as it follows a particular political doctrine, which is in this case feminists or anything which bashes straight, white, heteronormative, cisgendered men.
Yes.
Right? So.
And they said that they surveyed about 10,000 people, which was the reason why there has been a huge backlash on these three authors.
Yeah, so just a little background on three writers. Peter Boghossian is a professor at Portland State University.
Ethics professor.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Ethics professor at Portland State University. And James Linsday and Helen Pluckrose, although they are James Linsday was in the field of academia, he isn't anymore, and Helen Pluckrose is, I think, getting a PhD soon or something.
James has a PhD in mathematics.
Right.
And Helen is a magazine editor now. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so all three of them were involved in academia, but Peter Boghossian is facing the major backlash of it because he's a professor currently at university. Let's get into more about what the grievance studies have actually shown and what they reveal about the academia and the political bias in it, right? So let's talk about the dog park paper first because that sounds the funniest to me. So what are your views on it? Do you think that the grievance studies actually achieves the aim it had set out?
I think it does only because of the fact that they got caught.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the fact that the papers got published in the first place was questionable, but then the fact that it got taken down was commendable to some extent. The fact that they realized that it was pathetic.
Mm.
But the fact that the reason for the backlash was that they would have fabricated data and not that the entire concept was a little funny was what I think is a little...
The faking data charges, especially, I feel that is really stupid of the university to do it because that wasn't the purpose of this paper. Right, they knew that what they were doing was faking data, and although that has its own ethical concerns, the aim it has achieved exposes exposes a much larger problem in the academia, especially in America at this point in time.
Plus, if you remove this specific study with the data fabrication, then there are a lot more studies which don't have any data fabrication. It's only about ethics or about gender studies or things like that. Like about men putting butt plugs.
Basically, there was a paper which recommended that girlfriends of men peg them and penetrate them, and the words they were used were penetrating straight white men with dildos to reduce transphobia. Again, very ridiculous.
But we could try it. I mean, in the world could?
Well, the world could try a lot of things.
All I'm saying is, there has been a backlash, but why did the papers get accepted in the first place? Why
and not only did papers get accepted, one of the papers won an award.
Yeah.
For like this is an exemplar of a paper that others should
Best
follow.
research and things.
Right, and these are papers which have had passages from Mein Kampf directly put in it. It follows they just replaced any Nazi message with feminist propaganda.
The Nazi party or
so the example you were using was our movement has been replaced with like some feminist intersectionism of feminist movement, and it got accepted, right? And the way some people criticize grievance studies is by saying that although it's a lie, it's a very well crafted lie, and anyone can fool anyone with a very well crafted lie.
Because they target issues. They target issues which are very widely talked about. So, for example, feminism or the privilege of white men.
I feel that, from what I know, is that there is this overwhelming movement in the social sciences of the oppressor and the oppressed model, right? Which, although it is problematic model, let's explain what it is quickly. It's basically that everyone is born with a certain amount of privilege, and the people who are born with the highest amount of privilege in society are straight white men. Because historically they have always been the oppressor with the slave trade and then the racism and stuff like that, and that's why they are the oppressed, and the world works in a patriarchal system. So men oppress men, men oppress women, alright, and that is the basic fundamental model that a lot of the social sciences have adopted, and that's why you have all these gender studies classes, queer theory, and I was listening to this podcast which talked about white criticalism. Which were all of these studies essentially are doctrines which portray sometimes blatantly false statements about the world historically has been a feminist utopia with everyone having equality. Well, that wasn't the case, right? And this is what the Grievance studies was trying to expose. It's that these doctrines have corrupted the academia so much that as long as you follow what the queer theory and the feminist theory says, you will get accepted.
I read a book by Ayn Rand which idealizes, say, capitalism and things like that. But the interesting thing, and the one that's relevant here, is that there was a man in, say, the business sector who had risen from the ranks from a very, very low rank. I think he was the son of a sailor or something like that, a fisherman. And he became the owner of many major newspapers. And all these other privileged white men are basically looking down upon him, saying that just because he was not privileged, his rise seems so dramatic, and that's why he's given all this importance. He shouldn't be given that importance. If we didn't have this much privilege, then we'd get the chance to prove ourselves. And the fact that we are privileged makes us, special, but it puts us in a disadvantage because we can't prove ourselves now. We're already so high up. So I thought that was really silly. Why would you look down upon somebody who has risen through the ranks just because he was born without privilege?
Yeah, this is where it gets confusing, right? You have one camp of people who say that all white men are privileged, and because they are privileged, they should check their privilege, whatever that means. And then this other camp of saying that because we are privileged, we aren't accepted in society, right? They're two extremes. I feel that we are slowly moving towards a world where racism is decreasing, and racism and sexism and all these, all these prejudices are reducing in the world. But the current media, because the media definitely has a left bias, especially in the Western countries. Yes, Fox News exists, whatever, right? But generally, media has a left bias, right? And I feel they're over exaggerating the issue of Because if you're saying that if you comparing everyone to Hitler, if someone says that, well, women are generally weaker than men are physically, right? And we're saying that's just that you're basically Hitler. First of all, no, you aren't. Hitler was a genocidal maniac, all right, and not in the bigger problem with that is you're desensitizing what Hitler did. As soon as you start comparing everyone with Hitler, it loses its value.
When you say that racism or sexism is moving towards reducing or is in the process of reducing, then I mean every generation sort of has their own version or own form of racism. So if we are looking down upon gay people or lesbians, maybe the next generation will look down upon trans people, and then the new movement would be for the trans woman, man, people, person.
So wait. So what you're trying to say is that that every generation has its own form of like prejudice and discrimination?
Definitely.
Why?
I'm saying it can't reduce in as an overarching prejudice. It won't. There'll be obviously variations in the levels of the prejudice, but it'll never finish, because there will always be an oppressor and a person who is being oppressed.
Right, but I contest that entire model of social sciences. If you're looking at the world as oppressor and oppressed, you will get to a point where even the non-privileged class will suddenly become the oppressor. Right?
Yeah, that's French Revolution.
Yeah, like and what happened?
Proletariat.
What happened in Russia? Like Russian farmers who weren't privileged. It's just that they had enough things to sustain themselves. They certainly became the oppressors, and that is the main problem with this model.
It is a problem, but it still exists. Maybe I think it does exist, the oppressor versus the oppressed argument, even though it shouldn't, I guess. Because it highlights how humans need to have to be in this position of power, to have somebody to enforce laws upon, or their own arbitrary laws upon maybe. But I feel like it exists and we can't go away from it as of yet. Maybe there'll be a huge revolution and everything will change. Maybe.
I find it. I don't see it. Like I've lived in Australia for the last 3 years, and in India it's a different context, right? And we're talking about the Grievance studies in a Western context.
Yes.
Right, because the oppressor-oppressed model is more prevalent in third world countries like India.
Yeah. Okay. But don't you think businessmen or the richer in say the United States, which follows a capitalistic model in the economy, I guess their people who are richer, who have the means or the money, are definitely more privileged and therefore have the authority to oppress others in monetary terms.
Right. Like, well, why would you assume that they are rich and that's why they will oppress others?
Because that is the advantage that they have over the others.
But why would they use to oppress people, right? Like, if I was rich, I wouldn't necessarily oppress a lot of people, right? That's not what I set out in the world to do. I want to become. I don't want to become rich because I want to oppress other people.
That's not the end goal. Yes.
Right.
That is true. But in the process of remaining rich, I guess, not becoming rich, but maybe remaining rich, you do have to defeat competition and things like that. In which case,
that's the nature of. Well, nature.
Exactly.
Survival of the fittest, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the survival of the fittest requires an oppressor versus oppressed system, I guess. Doesn't it? The survivor.
Yes, but the oppressor versus oppressed system argues that you're born with a certain amount of privilege, right? as soon as you're born with, say you're a straight white man, you're very privileged, and you can't do anything about that privilege, right? It's stuck with you for life. You can apologize for it, you can check your privilege, right? But you can't get rid of it, which I think is a very ridiculous concept. Like a straight white man born in a very poor family and has only one mother.
Yeah.
Is
He's not privileged.
It's not. He's not. Right? But then the oppressed model argues that no, that guy's privileged, and that's not judging people on an individual basis. That's collectivizing group of people and saying you're evil.
Yeah, I guess I agree with that.
Let's get back into the grievance studies. So let's talk about the entire Peter Boghossian controversy and what the backlash he has faced. Because although all three of them are in some way were involved in the field of academia, Linsday and Pluckrose aren't professors at university, but Boghossian is, and he's a professor at Portland State, which is a very leftist university.
I guess.
Right, and the kind of backlash he's faced, he's seen death threats, and he's
being questioned by the college board, obviously.
Right, and the first violation that came up against him was that he faked data.
Yeah, but that got taken down, so I guess the more important one.
And that violation misses the point of the study.
Yes.
Right, because the point of the study was to expose political bias in the field of academia, and to do that they had to fake data. But if he's putting on violation for that, that's a very narrow-minded way of looking at what the purpose of the study was. And the other, which I feel is a more ridiculous, a bogus allegation, but all the more concerning, is the IRB violation that he has had, and essentially he has an ethics violation against him because it was a human experiment, and he didn't take consent of the people involved in the study. And the way they're phrasing it is that, well, the people because these were published in peer-reviewed journals, the peers were part of the study, and you didn't take their consent, so that's the violation. But if you took their consent, then this study becomes moot.
Yes.
Right? So, why?
I mean, I guess you know how people try to defame those that are a threat to them in any way. So they understand the academic journals that published these articles. They haven't commented on it, by the way. They haven't said anything about this. So maybe they just want to defame him, reduce his credibility, and so they're trying to find whatever
way possible to somehow fire him.
Yeah, sure.
That it's so comedic and yet so concerning.
It's very concerning. I mean, first of all, the first concern is that these got published at all.
Right.
But the second level of concern is that now that we've realized that this is happening, that hoax papers are being published, what are we going to do about it? Not put the person that conducted the experiment on trial. We shouldn't be doing that. That shouldn't be our next step.
We should be thinking, okay, well, there might be a real problem in how we teach and how we publish material.
Because that material gets used in classrooms.
The fact that something like this can get published, and you know, in a podcast, James Linsday and Boghossian had a podcast with Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And then they were in one segment, they was looking at papers, and it was so ridiculous.
Yeah.
There was a journal there was a journal of fact pride and stuff like that. I forget the name. And essentially it was basically promoting the Hayes approach, which is the health in every size approach, and being fat is good, and the fact that people don't like one of the papers in that journal argued that being thin is a white privilege because black people are from lower income families, low income families, and they cannot afford healthy food. That's such a stretch.
I mean, the fact that they got published, I guess, shows that there's a lot more out there. that shouldn't be there, and now I'm concerned about all the papers I've written and I've taken citations from. I mean,
yeah, and especially in sociology, right, which currently has this entire indoctrination. And what is concerning to me is that some of it is spreading into the hard sciences, say biology, math.
Tech, big time.
Yeah, and because look, sociology is a different field. It's a field that I don't take not a lot of interest. It's just that I haven't been familiarized a lot with that field in terms of even economics and geography and stuff like that. But I'm interested in it. But I know a significant amount in the sciences, and I strongly believe that science is a meritocratic field.
Definitely.
Right? It's if you're good at it, you go further in it.
Yes, and I feel like now the fact that there's international connect for all the scientists is helpful in reducing the number of hoax papers that can be released, because then everyone has to keep fact checking, has to keep doing the experiments in different places to see if what they're saying is right, which
Right.
I don't think happens in
I think
sociology.
it happens in sociology is that because science talk is mainly based on facts. It's not subjective in many ways, right? Although you can fudge up the data to expose have it be biased.
Yeah.
It's based on more hard facts, whereas sociology is grounded in arguments, in ideas produced by humans. And the problem with that is ideas by humans are fallible.
And there comes in faith, religion, ethics, things like that, which are
which is very subjective in
very
nature.
subjective.
Right?
Very subjective.
And the problem that I'm having, especially in the tech field, is that this movement of gender equality, and not gender equality in terms of equality of opportunity, which I'm completely for. Equality in terms of the fact that you will have to have 50-50 men-women division in a company.
Even in colleges, they're starting to do that too.
Yeah, and to me, that's so ridiculous because it makes no sense. You need to base an individual, or you need to look at an individual, see if he or she is able to keep up with the job,
has the
merit, and then accept him into the job. Doesn't matter if they're white, if they're black, if they're male or female. That has no significance to their merit.
That's true. I guess in economics, you could talk about, say, the sample sizes, or when economists conduct, experiments in terms of going around and conducting surveys. They can pick and choose the kind of people that they want to take answers from, and they are not obligated in any way to report every result. They can just omit some. Like, for example, when we do experiments in chemistry or biophysics, we have data points, which are, say, far away from the line of best fit, but we have to show them anyway. And scientists have to give a reason for, say, this
anomaly,
yes. But I feel like economists or sociologists don't have to justify themselves, because human behavior can change from one place to another. It's varying.
Yeah, and because the way peer review works in science is that they check the data, they see if the method was correctly used, they look at the language of it and see if it's if it's precise and accurate as to what happened in the experiment, and then they publish it. But in sociology, it's different because their peers are judging the arguments.
Yeah.
And if the data they acquired supports the arguments that they have made, and if the argument is fallible or infallible, and the degree to which it is accurate in the real world, right? Which again, subjective. And the one argument against grievance studies is that it's just a very well crafted lie. So if you bullshit enough, then it'll get accepted. And they've used a dog park paper, right? Where although the process by which they've acquired the data seems ridiculous, the person was arguing that if a person is really dedicated to the study, they can look at 10,000 dogs and look at their genitals, right? And I mean, I guess I suppose.
You could, but
Yeah.
would
but
you?
Would you? And but even if you discount that paper and you look at the arguments of the other six, they've cited Mein Kampf, not cited, but they've rewrote Mein Kampf.
They've used the exact wording.
Yeah.
Just without the Nazi.
And if people don't find a problem with it, there's definitely a bigger issue in the sociological academia field as a whole.
Yeah. I guess, do you remember when Trump was being, he was campaigning and a lot of his quotes were the same as Hitler's quotes? So
yeah.
someone went around saying Hitler's quotes to people and asked them if they believed that Trump would say it. And almost everyone said that, yeah, they would believe it. So I guess this thing about using Hitler's, what you were talking about, diminishing his value as
and
a bad example, quote unquote.
And this is the problem I have with with political and sociological discourse in general. Now it's reached a point where that if you don't believe in the feminist ideology, you're immediately marked as a racist, sexist, homophobe, right? And that's not a way to conduct reasonable discourse. And more importantly, what it does is it alienates a lot of people into talking to you. If as soon as I say that, and it's gotten to a point where they're going anti-science because they're saying men and women are completely equal in every possible way, or that being fat is okay, right?
Yeah.
And I have
normalizing those things.
Yeah, and I have a problem with that. If you have a problem with climate change deniers, I have a problem with you when you say being fat is okay. It's not.
It's not. I mean, if it's a disease, then.
And this is not to say that fat shaming is okay.
No.
Right? I'm not condoning that.
No, but you can't normalize the fact that being fat. You can't use that phrase, being fat is okay, just to make people feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, don't shame them, but don't make them feel like
Don't propagate lies.
Yeah, don't let them stabilize in that state. Help them get out of it.
Yeah.
If they really want to.
Absolutely. Yeah, so let's delve deeper into the political bias in sociology. Right? Do you think it is a genuine problem?
I do, because sociological studies would look at, say, where they're getting funding from, or any academic journal that they'd like to get published in. So maybe the political alliance of the people who are funding them or the academic journal would influence the conclusion that they'd like to come to. So essentially, they form up their conclusion and then they work backwards to gather data and to...
Oh, sorry, I don't understand.
They form up a conclusion. So they already have in mind what they're going to conclude.
Right, okay.
And then they form the rest of their essay or their paper.
Right.
Which is flawed. I mean, you start with a hypothesis.
Right, that's starting with a bias.
Exactly. You
right?
start with the end.
You're looking at the data, wanting to find the conclusion.
Yes, exactly. You want this conclusion, so you look at this data. But it's the echo chamber concept, I guess, where an echo chamber is basically where you're stuck in a kind of bubble where only the kind of information that you're looking for will come to you. Say on social media, if you're looking for pro-feminism posts, then that's what you'll get, because it reads your search history and things like that. But if you're looking for anti-feminist or anti-racism, then those are the kinds of posts you'd get. So any sociological survey that is stuck in that echo chamber of wanting one specific result would only look at evidence that supports that result.
Right.
May not give evidence that, say, goes against it or makes their argument any weaker. So I think that's why the political alliance in sociological surveys or studies is a big issue.
Right, and I was thinking that, well, just because there's this bias in academia, how will it affect the layperson? Because academia at the end of the day is an expertise field, and not everyone is so passionate about it, and not everyone knows the details of what's going on. And when I was thinking about it, the conclusion I came to was that, well, academia influences the real world in the sense that this research, people of academia will make it accessible to the lay person, and the lay person will be influenced by these flawed ideas, which will affect the real world.
Yeah, and I guess they'll believe it too.
Yeah.
I mean, if you tell a lay person that there's been this huge, really important study and they've collected data from all over, and then tell them that this is the conclusion that they reached, they'd have to accept it, I guess, as a lay person. Right?
Right. And
Which is how it would affect them. I mean, false information, that's a little, that's scary. Because we might have got false information without knowing.
yeah, and this is why I don't like, because, and then 80% of the sociology papers published aren't ever cited.
Or completely cited. I mean, there are some major things that are cited, but the minor things, the little sentences that they try to pass off as opinion or something like that, those aren't cited.
Yeah.
So that is an issue, I guess. Yeah. Grievance studies though targets the more sociological fields, gender rights, gender studies, but it doesn't, even though Linsday is a mathematician, it doesn't target mathematics. Maybe they would have if
Yeah,
they
and this is what they were talking about in one of the podcasts, was that, well, sociology, they feel definitely has a bias, and I tend to agree with what they have been able to achieve. And now they're seeing it slowly encroach into the hard sciences, right? And again, to me, that's very concerning. So hard sciences, physics, chemistry, biology, all of these are not. They cannot follow the oppressor-oppressed model, because then you're limiting the amount of knowledge that can come into these fields. You're discouraging people. The grievance studies coming into the sciences, not the grievance studies, the political bias coming into the sciences would be the fact that it would mean that, okay, white men are privileged, therefore their opinion counts for less.
I don't think that's what the bias would be in the sciences. I don't think it will be racist.
Or like simply that in a university only there has to be 50-50 division between men and women.
Sure.
That would limit, like, a man or a woman more capable than a person who would accept it because of this quota essentially would not get the place simply because of them being a man or a woman. And that is the problem I have with the oppressor-oppressed model, because people should be based on individual basis in the sciences, and the people who are more able and are more qualified for a position should get that position or get that place in the university.
Definitely.
I guess it's time to conclude. So today we talked about the grievance study, gave an overview of it, looked at the different papers published and the ridiculousness of the papers. Then we talked about the Boghossian controversy with the IRB violations and the data faking violations against him, and the implications of that in sociology as an academic field, and the political bias in sociology, the oppressor-oppressed model, as well as some of the arguments that are brought against the grievance studies and what they reveal about the nature of academic field as a whole. Mohona, tell them what they should do right now.
Like, share, subscribe, and tap the bell icon for upcoming notifications.
Absolutely, guys. Comment down below what you think about the grievance studies. If you agree with us, hit that like button. If you disagree with us, still hit that like button. I like your like buttons. Let's have a debate in the comment section down below. What do you think about the grievance studies? Do you think political bias is a huge problem in social sciences? If not, why so? And yeah, let's have a discussion, a civil discourse.
Civil discourse.
Alright, this is Mohona, I'm Orkojeet, this was Open Eyes, and we'll see you guys next time.